Welcome back. It's the fourth game of the night. Almost done with the night, but we still have a lot of action going on, so don't go anywhere. It is Fløng versus Verdant now for the fourth one. And if we can we take a look at the standings at the beginning of the night? They are not updated.
Yeah,
Just want to look at the standings. It's good. It feels good.
yeah.
So
So
yeah,
Flung 8-5 right now. Verdant 4-9. London just picked up that win, so they are 5-9. So it is absolutely paramount that they pick up this win because if they do not, they will be locked into ninth place. Not for the rest of their split, but just going into week uh 8. There you go. Week 8. They will be 4-10, and that would be a bit of a disastrous position to be in with only 4 games remaining. And as for Flung, an opportunity to potentially catch up with natives pending their result in the final game of the day. However, natives will be taking on AAB. So uh, more or less just looking to try and stay competitive for that second spot because remember, same format as Division 1 for any Division 1 followers, of course. Finishing 1-2, you start the playoffs in the upper bracket. You win, you immediately go to finals. You lose, you get dropped off, and you have to do an additional 2 more best ofs before you can make it to the finals. And yeah, you don't necessarily want to have to make the lower bracket run. It is a very long and tenuous one, but for Flung,
Mhm.
8-5, they wouldn't mind losing this game, but at the same time, you definitely want to ensure that you try and put the pressure on that second spot.
Oh,
Especially considering, of course, Rate picked up their win, so they are currently tied in wins. Flung, if they lose this game, they'll be tied with Rate for third places. We're here into picks and bans, and of course, Verdant Mouse were talking about, not necessarily being dropped into that second relegation spot. Of course, the opportunity and the potential to still climb up into 6th is there. It is not necessarily the highest chance, but the threshold is typically 9 wins. They're at 4-9. There's 5 games left. You got to start picking up the wins at this moment. But even from this point on, looking at their runner schedule, natives next week, light side, of course, might end up being difficult. Light side going through a bit of a trough right now, but still, London United looking, like a very terrifying opponent at the moment. And then they round out the split with Munster Rugby Gaming. So if they at least want to give themselves any semblance of hope, this win has to come in. Otherwise, you just feel it's going to be a bit of a disastrous way to round out the spring regular season as bans coming quite quickly. Akali, Aphelios, Jarvan, Jinx, Thresh, Zeri all banned away. Gwen still up and available. All the AD carries still up and available. And it seems like Jin will be picked up here for Guff.
it is a trinity force of AD carries being removed in this side, and I love this. We got to see it yesterday on Division 1. We might get a Rakan to follow it up, and that's the lethality Zaya with the feathers. I would love to see this.
Yeah, this is such a scary rotation here from Verdant because, like you say, that lethality Zaya, so much poke, and if you give over Zaya Rakan, that's already going to be an irritating lane to deal with in the 2v2. But then it's also going to be paired up with the likes of the Hecarim diving in, so it does make you wonder. He's hovering to scare me. He's not going to lock it. He's locked in. Okay, Pogman. There we go. I mean, I will say, ballsy to lock it in. Only seeing Zaya, only seeing Hecarim. But Shafty has locked in Kane. We'll get into the specifics of it as things go on. However, it's not a champion we see too often. Fortunately, you've got an expert on the desk. So we'll talk about it as the game actually progresses. And now I want to see what Flung actually lock in here. I think specifically for the bottom lane, because you're likely going to be dealing with Rakan. Do you want to pick that up? Do you want to go for something like the Leona to just get the preemptive counter pick in? Alistar works as kind of a, I suppose, disengaging, re-engaging tool when you're dealing with what's likely going to be Hecarim Rakan here, unless Verdant really want to give up the opportunity to have that 2v2 in the bottom side. But there's no reason not to go for your support at this moment in time. And then you get that priority pick on your mid laner or your top laner on R4. There's the expected Rakan lock in. And this is where things get a bit tricky because you've locked in your jungle and bottom lane. The enemies have locked in their bottom and jungle. Now, where do you go from here? I think if you're looking at Errol, they kind of share similar champion pools, them and Ericsson. So maybe you look towards Vangstead and you just say, okay, Camille off the table, and maybe we take away the Gnar just because we don't want Vangstead on these champions, which he plays super aggressive on. And there you go. There's the first of the 2. And as for Flung, honestly, the world is their oyster. They can kind of go for a lot of picks here. If they want to maybe remove away things that really facilitate the comp right now from Verdant, maybe you ban away something like the Orianna if you're scared of the scaling aspect of that and some of the poke there. But if not, I mean, again, it's more or less anything you want off the table from Valkyrie or Ericsson champion pools.
I love it that you got to see your pick,
I
your
know, man.
voice just sped up, like
I,
disappearing your face. I love it. This is the Yashi effect.
I
Players are picking these,
they're listening, man.
yeah,
They're giving it
and
to
they
us.
are good picks because you're not used to play versus them as well.
No,
So it's hard. And if you have a Kane, and we'll talk about that further down the line, I know you want
yeah,
to play this. The amount of possibilities you have as a path is ridiculous.
yeah. The early jungle pathing options for Kane are effectively all anywhere you want to start, you can start. So we'll see what exactly Shafty wants to get up to on this pick. He's hovered it a couple of times and it's been banned away from him in the past. So it's definitely something that he's very capable of playing if teams are willing to throw the bans at it, as Gwen will be the lock-in here for Valkyrie. So they're going to give the counter pick over to Ericsson, as what will now the pick for Vangstead be? Because Camille's gone, Fiora's gone, the Nara is still there if you want to take the matchup, the Graves too.
But they
If you want
need
to play,
AP, don't they? You
they
have
do
Kane.
currently need AP. Errol can still go for something like the Victor if you want to deal with some of the dive with a lot of burst AoE. That's definitely an option. Vangstead throws down the gauntlet and says, we're going to give him the ribbon instead. Okay. That is so in Vangstead's wheelhouse to go for a pick like this. And we're going to have a bonkers game here for Fløng. I wonder if we just get some like crazy duelist in the mid lane. Something like Cassiopeia would absolutely tear apart the Verdant composition. It wants to go forward. It wants to dive. You can ground the Rakan. You can slow down and stun the Hecarim and the Rakan as well. The Gwen always wants to move forward. I love this adaptation from Fløng in the mid lane at the very least. And we're also going to get to see a competitive ribbon. It's not often we get to cast those kind of things. And now it's over to Ericsson, because what do you even do in this situation? You see Kane in the jungle, you see Cassiopeia in the mid lane. It feels like a damn solo queue game. I think, yeah, Orianna, you just go for the most safe lane you can go for. They actually pivot over to the Zillion, which a bit of a scary one to deal with. Of course, speeding up the likes of the Hecarim, giving the revive over. It's going to be quite oppressive if it can get going. But I think more importantly, it provides a lot of wave clear in the mid lane, and it provides a lot of safety to ensure that, hey, I'm always going to have probably first move on Errol. I'm always going to be able to make it skirmishes. But man, what an exciting draft. So many weird champions we got to talk about here for this one.
Before we go into what is Kane, what can we expect about Kane, I want to look into both compositions. We have a lot of strong side for Fløng. They can split. Shafty will be really fast to support Vangst if they need. Valkyrie, I don't know how this matchup will go because I actually favor this one in Riven side, because you can get inside of the mist. You don't care. You
don't
want
care
to be
about the mist.
melee, so it makes a lot of sense. Then you have the speedy up Zillion, even though he gets on the miasma. You can run away. You have some sort of speed to deal with this. Draconian coming in with the lethality Zaya. We have a lot of things going on, and team fights are going to be massive. They're going to be bloody as well, and it's going to be a mess. And I love them. And now, what can you say before we jump into Champions Summoner's Rift? Before we look into Kane, before.
Yeah, I mean, I think definitely Verdant, they've got the composition that works a little more coherently with one another. Whilst I think there's nothing wrong inherently with Flung's composition, it is definitely going to be very different to what we typically see from a lot of the meta things. You've got a lot of what's effectively been drafted for, with the exception of Cassiopeia, it's pretty much just matchup, right? Shafty's picked the Kane here to match into the Hecarim clear speed, and then maybe also deal into the scaling side of things. And then on the bottom side, you've got the preempted Alistar pick into the Rakan, so they're looking to probably play that 2v2 out. They're probably not going to be too scared. Ron Bengi and Guffey on the bottom side. And I have in my ears that it's actually First Strike Kane, which
Blue
says to
Kane.
me Blue Kane, which
Oh,
I
yeah.
will say risky business into the likes of Brazilian pick. And already you're dealing with 3 melees. But we'll see what you can get done, because you never know. Blue Cane, if it can get going, sometimes it doesn't necessarily even matter what the composition is. I do fear, though, there is so much utility available to the Verdant side that Blue might be a bit of a risk to go for. But we'll see how he pilots it, because at the end of the day, again, Shafty is one of, if not the only player in the league that actually is confident enough to bring Kane out onto competitive. Not because it's the first Kane that we're seeing here,
Yeah.
of course, in Div 2, but more because he catches these bans quite frequently in these second phases where we're already seeing 2 or 3 jungle bans in first phase, and you start to whittle it down to even lower tiered bans. Sometimes he just catches cane bans. So it's obviously something that he is comfortable playing. And we are here on the Summoner's Rift to see how this very, very bizarre draft goes. And of course, Shafty did
Okay.
play it last week.
We have the bird's eye of the rift. I do believe we have at least 1 minute. Jamada, it's your
You can
time
ask me about
to
path.
shine.
All right. So
What do we have?
a lot of interesting options available in this game. I think especially into Hecarim. He's going to see that ward. So what will he do? Will he go back to base, go sweeper? Is he just going to wait on the long con? He will just walk away. So can't necessarily get like a cheeky Raptor start off. In fact, I expect Sybil to maybe start Raptors. And yeah, this could be the call. You start on Wolves, and this gives you the option to do quite a few things. So you could clear your top side quite quickly by clearing out the blue and the Grump at the same time. You could even technically phase walk through all of the walls and then go and path into the top side if you're expecting Hecarim to be there. And that ward will definitely set alarms. And that's something you really want to do. If you're playing Kayn competitively, you always want to track the chicken camp. It's something that you want to have the cooldown knowledge of, so you can always go and invade it. It seems like Shafty wants to go for close to a full clear as he's dragging this wolf camp up. And what you'll see him do is basically just leash the Grump and then eventually the blue buff. Potentially at the same time. We'll see whether or not he wants to do it. As he's gone to the Grump first. So that says to me he's just going to clear that by itself and then smite it away. And we'll see exactly what kind of pathing he wants to do. On the opposite side, Sybil. There you go. We'll drag it over the smite. Sybil going for red into Krugs. Nothing too spicy about that. See it quite commonly. But they do have the information on the Raptors. So what will they do about that? Because Shafty should be done with the blue in a couple of seconds, and they could actually meet each other. But instead, he will just go down towards his own full clear. And that is what we should end up having from both these junglers here. So nothing too exciting in the top side, though. This is definitely a matchup to keep our eyes out on.
Yes. But also, Edel pushes the mid lane.
wow.
He knows he wants to take the timer away, so he forces away, and Sybil is losing a lot. I know it's not about the gold, it's actually about the experience
XP
right now.
in that case, yeah. So Sybil still got enough of the camp to hit level 3, so it's not the end of the world, but good job there as, oh my god, Winter is gone.
It is gone. It is a cold winter, but here comes Shafty looking for Draconium. He flashes away. Is it enough? He doesn't have the Blades reach yet.
No. 2 points in queue for the clear. Very common to see, but we'll see. Don't worry, Shafty.
It happens. It happens.
As, yeah, the invade onto the blue gets the ward down, but Sybil's actually very low. The issue is Shafty doesn't know about the health bar of Sybil right now, so just waiting for the Skull Crab will clear that one up and probably just go back towards his own jungle. And Winter would have come back out of base and backed him up anyway, so definitely the correct defensive call. But now that there's a bunch of priority in both the mid and the top mid lane, just looking for it there as Vangstead, very aggressive trade. Loses out in the HP, still thumbs up, but there's more going on.
Winter is not allowed to be in lane. He brought in a squishy support item versus an Alistar versus an early jungler as well. He's getting punished by the spell thieves.
Yeah, and that's also the thing with Errol on this Cassiopeia. The ground is so oppressive to play against Ezra Khan. You've got effectively 3 dashes in your kit that you want to use. Cassiopeia, if she has the time to react, is always going to be able to ground you and ensure that you cannot get too aggressive. A good early aggression from the Fløng side, not just in the bottom side, but also just to ensure that in the prolonged priority that they had after that gank to try and see if they could find anything else on the pick. As Shafty just continues to full clear, and he's going to have his top side to retreat to as well. So a lot of gold on his first reset. And I'm curious as to what build exactly he will end up doing. Because again, Blue Kayn, it's not something we see in competitive very frequently. As we hop in to the replay. And what exactly was going on here? So it seemed like they just wanted to go for the reset, but they see Sybil on this ward. They want to force him off, but then they catch Winter out, and they say, okay, let's just knock Winter into this corner. Ground comes in, and yeah, Winter just doesn't have the dash out, and the Grounded comes in to stop it.
He was still level 2. He was still level 2, so obviously he's going to get punished by that. He doesn't have the dance so he can't go back to his allies. He brought in the Predator, so this is going to be a fast recon, but he needs those experience points. He finally gets himself to level 3, so finally gets himself on the board as he doesn't stop the Extra Flash, but this is a good opportunity for Draconian to be locked in. He doesn't have the heal, he doesn't have the flash, and he doesn't have his life as Goof is going to take yet another one with the blind call. There you go, he pulls all the feathers, and that's a lot of damage. There's no tape that can fix that.
No, but I think the wave state actually works out for Fløng because that wave should slow stack back in. Yeah, I think the creeps just worked out. RNG will give Fløng the advantage in that regard. So Draconian will miss out on, a couple more creeps. A real nice punish from Draconian. And that's the issue with Jhin, right? You go for those extended trades. You have to reload after that 4th shot. The burst damage looked quite good initially. But Draconian has more than enough time to put the feathers down to get that Blade Caller back in, execute Guffey, and find that trade kill. Shafty already level 5. With the Krugs out on the map too. Sybil is level 5 as well. They're actually parry in camps. Albeit Shafty technically has that Raptor camp up and available still, as they will spot him out on the sweeper. Thank you, observers, for highlighting the vision.
I mean, all observers are also smart.
Yeah, Reed
all of them.
Good at his job. All of them.
One,
Yeah,
all of them. Yeah.
all one of them.
I'm not lying. Oh, Winter gets caught again. The root is there. Headbutt him away from the Draconian, but since it's the pair of Rakan and Xayah, the range is extended. It's more than enough to get him into safety. But Shafty now using this opportunity instantly to go for that Mountain Drake. It's the first one, unlocking the second one, and then figured it out. What sort of soul do they have? Because if Kayn gets the lead to begin with, it's really hard to stop him from taking objectives. Talking about objectives, this is a Riven just stealing away in the face of the enemy. Level 6, Vance now gets spotted by Valkyrie. This could be it. The ultimate has been used. The sword is huge. And there we go. That is the red buff being stolen as the dragon is being made. That is nasty.
Yeah, definitely feels bad on Sybil's end. Good job from Vankstead to steal away that resource, and we'll miss having that ultimate available for the 1v1, but I doubt not having it will go for anything too aggressive. But Sybil wants revenge and has level 6 and Ghost.
Exhausted, getting this slowed down by the ultimate. Bugs comes in, gets the flash, but gets pulled back down. And the scissors from Valkyrie gets the HP.
I've got to say, unlucky Vankstead as okay, Ron Bengi. Looks like they were going for a dive a little bit too soon before Arrow showed up. I feel like that stun, that key burst, maybe should have connected onto Sybil. Just caught out by the hitboxes there. Definitely a little unlucky on that front, as we'll get the replay of that.
Yeah, I need to see it again.
Yeah, Shafty just paying a bit of a cover, a little bit of a visit, getting some form progress. As I don't think that's something we can track from the observer's end, how far in Kayn is on the forms, as this is definitely live picture. I think this is as just let our observers go, I'm sorry. Bagstead just gets a little bit too far forward. Look at the key burst though, because
because he flashed in and he brought
him. Yeah, I think the stun actually stayed where he flashed. I don't know about Riven so intimately that I feel the key burst has a very, very short channel time.
It does.
So you should be able to W flash, but I guess unfortunately it was not quite quick enough, the combo. So Sybil doesn't get stunned up. And they get away with that kill onto Vankstead. Of course, we also had that bottom side dive. But all in all, I think Fløng still in an okay enough spot. They picked up that early dragon, and that's one of the things where if you're playing against the Kayn, it's what you actually want to do a lot of the time. You want to try and pick up the early dragon, because Kayn, he's not necessarily the best early skirmisher in the world unless he has a bunch of setup. But Hecarim, not exactly known for his skirmishing either before level 6. So Shafty picks up that dragon, and now Verdant, they're not going to have an early soul option. Instead, it might actually potentially be Fløng, depending on how things go. I do worry for the longevity of this Kayn, if it is going to be blue, which is definitely the expectation with the build, the items, rune choice.
It's looking like a blue Kayn, let's be honest. Blue
Kayn, blue Kayn into Xayah, into Zilean, it's definitely risky business. And if you're trying to look for the, how far along in form he is, there's just no way to look at it from the observer POV, as far as I'm aware.
Yeah.
So, yup, I hear him.
Yep. Sign of.
But from what I've seen him fight,
Oh.
I would wager a guess that he is about a third of the way through. But it actually scales into the game. So the longer you go without form, the more value the orbs are. So the next fight that he takes, if it's a longer one, then he could certainly just hit form then and there. But you have to remember, if he's going blue, he has to be hitting Ericsson or he has to be hitting Draconian. There is no other range champions in the game.
There's an interesting situation where you know that Kayn is stacking. You know that Kayn is stacking not only the souls, but also the tier. And if you look at Sybil, he went for the same path. He brought in the tier of goddess for the Hecarim as well. What do you reckon this is going to be?
So this is something that we see in solo queue a lot, where after the chem tank mythic, you can, in solo queue, actually just go for the Muramana. And the extra AD really helps buff you up, and you become, you know, a bit more of a bruiser as opposed to a full tank engage machine that we see a lot of the Hecarims play into these days.
And it's so easy to stack.
Yeah.
And it's so easy to proc as well. And that's a lot of additional damage alongside with the Zillion to keep you safe. Winter getting in all the CC. So this is not going to be the usual Hecarim when he goes for the tanky build. Oh, I don't die, but I don't deal as much damage. No, every single onslaught, every single Q,
it's going to be scary.
Demolish your HP.
Yeah, exactly, because that Muramana is going to give him, what, once it's stacked up, 60-ish AD, 70? Very, very strong item and so much mana as well. And Garth, to
get caught, Winter's going to get punished though. And Rottenbaggy now needs to get away. The ultimate is going to give him a little bit of a breathing room. It's more than enough. As the cow screams and the cow goes away.
Yeah, and this is where we'll see whether or not we get a skirmish that Shafty can try and get some form in. They find the knock-up.
They find the knock-up, and remind yourself that the flash is still available, and the Ericsson is rotating. Rottenbanging doesn't have his ultimate anymore, and Ericsson picks up an easy one. Drops the Herald for 3 members. This is a 3v3, and I think both junglers want to fight it off to see who gets priority to help the lane. They're both using the Qs, both Qs being used. It's going to be the slam. It's going to be for Draconian. Oh, everybody shares the loot. I don't know.
Yeah, it's not the most gold in the world, but it's still gold nonetheless. Shafty getting a fair amount of poke damage here on Sybil, but you expect that this dragon goes over. Though Shafty could try and E into the wall, try and get a cheeky steal off. Could even just Q in if he feels like he just goes for the blind.
There's
very respectable
to the Smite Wars, so he gives it away. There's the Cloud moving away, and this is a good soul for pretty much everybody. If you get a Notion with the Riven, with the Cassio, and also with the Kayn, there's a lot of sustain that you can proc. On the other side, you have a Hecarim. You also have the Gwen. This is I think this is a nasty soul for a lot of sustain.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think the Salt very, very strong for either side here. A lot of healing in most of the kits and iron paths that we may end up seeing. And you know, you called out the lethality, Zaya. Unfortunately, we're not going to get lethalities.
Oh,
it's
yeah?
very standard lethal tempo. We never actually picked on it at the start of the game. Lethal tempo, Gale Force. So, standard scaling. And Zaya, while she's not necessarily picked all of the time in pro play, she's still a very, very good champion. Surprised you don't see her, you know, more often. Even in the current meta, I think the only issue is really she just gets outranged and prioried by Jinx. And doesn't necessarily have the best matchup in the world into Aphelios.
Yeah, you need a lot of range to meet up with those guys, and if you don't want to play with the range, might as well bring the Vados and use the piercing shot to get some safety.
Exactly.
The double daggers were buffed. I don't think it's enough for the meta right now. But for now, because we know that in the new patch, the B patch, the hot fix, they're really, really well fixed. As Draconian is just going to step away from the Noxus Blast, so no stacks on that. Goof, looking for the root, as Sybil is going to get caught, and the Chrono Break is on. Will they be able to resurrect? That was a beautiful pulverize! Sybil is still not in safety, as Shafty took a lot of souls for himself, so maybe we might see the Kayn popping up soon for the transition. I don't know if he has it already.
Yes, he has Darken. Yeah, he's got Darken.
I don't think that's what he wants.
No, I wouldn't think so either.
So he has to wait. That's
He has to wait
painful.
4 minutes, yeah, and that's gonna eclipse this next Dragon Spawn. Now, the only way to cheat this is if he's able to hit Draconium and Ericsson in the next couple of minutes to fuel blue form to spawn in quicker. But I'm
Can
just
you do
not
it?
sure. You can, yeah. So if you hit the incorrect form that you don't want, if you actually hit the champions corresponding to, you know, the form, so immediate champ or range champ that you actually want, it will reduce the timer.
Oh, that is lovely. I didn't know that since I despise this champion.
Oh, okay.
Well,
There you go.
thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. A little bit of education work for anybody that doesn't know too much about Kayn, which, to be fair, in my years of playing Kayn, it feels like no one knows how the champion works. So it just breeds
Oh, I know. I
frustration.
ban him. Yeah.
There you go.
I think Manamune alongside with the blue form deals some sort of damage.
It's really, yeah, it's a combination, to say the least. I think
I like the way you put
it's
it.
one of those things where blue Kayn, I won't say he becomes mana hungry, but if you're trying to, like, you know, in and out of walls 24/7, that E mana cost is quite high. It's like 90, 100 on cost. So the tier obviously helps out with that, but of course you then get all of the on-hit damage from the mirror mana, and that's the additional part. And if you go Prowlers, you just get an additional 5 lethality for the completion of the item. So it works out to actually end up, in most cases, instead
Ooh.
dealing with that engage quite well.
You know when you try to charm someone and you just listen to, sorry, I have a boyfriend. That's exactly what happened as Vex
Oh!
is going for another engage, but the knockup now is real. And Draconio keeping himself in distance, gets himself a hold of the second kill, and also another turret bites the dust.
Yeah, he misses out on the Wind Slash Vangstead to execute a winner. But even if he did, that's always going to be a 1-for-1. A bit of a frustration play. A little bit emotional there. But he does pull in multiple members to the top side, and they're able to drop the Herald in the mid lane. They do just end up trading out the towers regardless. Errol will pick up the wave that got stacked up, and Draconium's going for a bit of a reset. But if Errol can maybe walk up, I don't think he's going to be able to, and stop that recall. Could have been quite big. To ensure that Draconium shows up to that team fight late, as there's a fight in the mid lane. Rombengi.
The banging, getting the unbreakable will is more than enough to allow him to just back off so they can re-engage on Sybil. But then you have to think about, okay, there's a chrono shift, so they can do it. They have to stop. Meanwhile, the dragon is going to respawn in 15 seconds. So this is an important one to see who gets the lead in terms of soul points, as Roddenbaggy is going for another one, and Kayn, not Kayn, but Rakan is fairly low. The curtain calls, it's not enough to finish him off as he gets away, but now you have a support with no HP whatsoever to fight off versus this dragon.
Yeah, and I think that should just be Flung's dragon. And this is kind of a very nice thing for Flung. Shafty's still no form, 18 minutes into the game, that's a bit of a problem. And I think Verdant, they're starting to recognize we can still fight.
Winter's still there, no HP whatsoever, but it's going to be Cassiopeia to take that one. As the charm connects, he dies in the process, but it's an honorable death as Winter gives himself up. And now finally, but that's a perfect petrifying gaze, getting the AD carry. It's not enough now. Right now, Valkyrie is dead. Draconio keeping himself in distance. What an amazing blade caller. Not getting the kill, but the double daggers in a few seconds. It's not enough because the root is there. And finally getting the disengage. 5-6, 2 dragons for Flong. Verdant are still fighting it off. But I gotta say, Jamada, I gotta say, even though Verdant are looking spicy at the beginning of the game, the late game from Flung is scary.
Yeah, it's going to be scary, but at the same time, you can really say the same thing about Verdant. Gwen scaling, Zillion's going to send Sybil to the moon. Draconium as well is going that on-hit build, right? It's the typical crit, a hyper carry Xayah build. And a lot of the champions on Flung, you know, they can be relatively short range, can come into Xayah's operational ranges. So definitely scaling is very potent on both ends. You can see on the top side, Rombengi pays for it with his life, defending that dragon, but all that damage that comes out onto Sybil, specifically onto Winter as well. Very, very scary. The Rakan dies quite quickly. Vangstead flashes in, saved by the Chrono Shift originally. Comes back up, and unfortunately for Valkyrie, caught out by the Petrifying Gaze. And the ground isn't enough to ensure that Sybil falls for Flung. But they're treated really good from Draconium. And that wall hop is actually quite difficult to do. So I will give credit to Vangstead. It does almost get him killed. But speaking of Vangstead, come back out on to the live. Trying to 1v1
Oh!
Valkyrie.
He's online. He's online.
Yeah, he's here. Blue Kane. And he's even got the very edgy black chroma on that Nightbringer skin.
So even though it's the blue cane, it's still a red cane when he goes through walls.
When he does all of the forms, yeah. It's something that bugged a lot of people, this skin. Like, all of his indicators are red, but he's supposed to be blue cane. But quite obvious to spot the difference, if you ask me. Anyway.
Yeah.
Shafty,
you just look
maybe...
at the champion and you realize, okay, this is blue cane, so yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, I think what the idea is going to end up being here for Shafty, because you've got the Zillion in the game, which is going to stop a lot of the assassinations, and the Xayah there too, is more or less just poke onto the carries that can eat up a lot of the damage quite easily, as the only person that can really pull him out of the wall is Winter, kind of, but that's about it. Shafty would really have to overstep to allow Winter to actually pull him out. Other than that, Sybil on a devastating charge. If he's got it fully stacked up, you get all of the extra attack range. You can actually target Kane in the wall. But this poke will be very, very obnoxious to deal with. And one thing you'll notice as well, just able to cover so much ground so quickly. As speaking of covering ground, so it's Sybil.
Shafty deals damage, but takes damage as well, and he's forced to go back using the Shadow Step back to the Raptors. And there you go. That is not only the clear speed of a Kane on those Raptors, since you were pointing it out, you need those timers. You need to just clear as fast as possible. Oh, Errol is alone. They know Cassiopeia is there.
They're going up there
in my boots, and Sybil wants to step on it.
Oh,
going back. Wait, I thought I saw a TP. Okay, there you go. Vangst is there alongside with Errol. Dodges the onslaught of Shadow, but not the charm as the curtain calls and bullets are flying into the face of Verdant. They need to disengage. Draconian takes flight, brings the pen, but it's not enough. The broken blade gets back on the back. Draconian so close to death, and Vangst finally gets revenge. Laughs in the face of the enemy with the Riven. And Valkyrie arrives way too late.
yeah, I think the minions killed the tower and Valkyrie couldn't complete his teleport. That is the most unlucky teleport channel I think I've ever seen in competitive. As Fløng, they went out on the skirmish, I think because of that. 5v4 in the top side, and they should be able to convert this into a Baron quite comfortably. As the follow-up was just there. Errol did enough to buy himself a lot of time. Bankstead was such a diving threat. Able to lock down kills for the likes of Shafty to follow up and Guff. Finding his mark as well. With the curtain call.
Yeah, we need to
Baron
see that
secured.
because I saw the TP, but I was so confused on what happened.
Yeah, so look, the teleport comes in, it dies. The tower dies to the minions. Bankstead doesn't even get the auto in. He would have anyway, but you can see here. Errol dead to rights, but Draconian walks face first into Vangstead. Big mistake because Chrono Shift has to be cast on him and not Ericsson to at the very least buy a little more time. Chrono Shift doesn't even end up being useful to keep Draconian alive. And the rest of Verdant just gets absolutely minced by the two blades of Riven and Kane.
That is unlucky. There's the timer going down as well. Verdant looking for the dragon. He's in the walls. He's in the walls.
Yeah.
He gets the dragon. And the soul point goes for Fløng. There is the Shadow Step.
Shadow Step, it's an irritating ability to play against.
You're a Kane fan, and you're telling me that he's irritating. I love it.
Yeah.
I mean, I used to play Teemo, so I know the feeling, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. As you can see, Shafty even dealing... I mean, here's the issue of Sybil's build right now. As he's definitely been stimmied in gold income. Only has the Hex Tech.
Fumble Winter. This is not even mana immune.
Yeah, it's not going to end up being mana immune. As okay, engage on the top side. Bankstead gone.
That's one, but can he do anything else? That is a limb that he lost.
Yeah. Shafty's quite strong.
What? That's Draconian running away from the turret, looking down. Where's my leg? Where's my leg?
It's like, you know, you hear those stories where it is a bit sad, but people get injured quite heavily and they're just in shock. They don't even know what's happened to them.
That's
That was
exactly
Draconian.
what happened to Draconian.
Yeah. As okay, Guff knocked
Another
out.
engage, and I don't know if you
No.
want this Winter. There's no flash on top of Miasma. That's what you have to deal when you're playing versus a snake in the boots. Errol with the Cassiopeia, bringing a lot of trouble for those high mobility supports. And Goof now is comfortable. He can just push that turret. But now, comfortable disappears as Sybil steps into the fray, and it's not enough. Raron Bangi getting with the unbreakable will. Valkyrie on the chase. Here comes Shafted to the back line, and that's a kill. Goes in with the Umbral Trespass. There's no sustain out of that ultimate, but gets to go along the wall, and that's more than enough to get Shafted into safety. Edel cannot say the same as he goes golden, but the Bison gets him down.
Shadow step.
Looking for the sustain. Where's the blades reach? Looking for Draconian, doesn't connect. And the bomb goes tick, tick, tock. But no damage on that tack. As Vanks is looking for the left. Is looking for the flank. Will anybody step into it? Winter yet again. Charms the enemy. Gets their root going down on overstep your boundaries, friend. As he gets taken down.
That's a very Vankstead play there. That's all I will say about it. Goes to the flank. Absolutely deleted by the CC and damage. As on the opposite side, we haven't spoken much about Draconian, but he has very silently scaled up into this game quite well. 26 minutes to be 3 items, 623. 230 CS as well. Doing a pretty good job in this game at the moment, if you're to ask me. And will be a very big factor in the damage that Verdant are able to put out in the later stages of the game. Gwen on the Cosmic Drive still needs a little bit more time, it feels like, to come online and do a little more visible damage. Not necessarily Valkyrie's fault, but Gwen just hasn't been in the correct kind of positions to absolutely delete people like we're so used to seeing her do.
Look at this. Rabadon's Death Cap, Ludon Zeko, alongside with everything you need. Cosmic Driver. This Errol Cassiopeia is dealing way too much damage right now. You cannot build versus this, because if you build versus this, you're skipping the armor that you need to deal with the Kayn, with the Riven, with the Jhin. But then you're looking into the Riven, and there's a Black Cleaver. So you need to stack HP in order to survive this, but nobody is doing so. It's really hard to itemize versus the team of Fløng. And you told me, yeah, Verdant has an amazing team in late game, but can you reach into that late game, and do you have enough resources to build into late game?
Yeah, that's the issue, because I think for Fløng, the way their comp interacts with Verdant, if they just bide their time, Verdant will want to go in eventually, and even if they can maybe get their hands on Guff, if they don't get their hands on Errol at the same time, Errol will demolish the engage with Petrifying Gaze, with all of the Twin Fangs. It will just come to pass. As that's a bit of a cheeky knockout from Rotten Bengi. Nothing will come of it, but the Shreddiers gets popped on one side, and definitely you can feel the angst between these two teams. They are really poking and prodding.
Rotten Bengi going for another headbutt, but Pulverize allowing the AD carry to just dish those bullets on the backside. Shefty looking for an entrance. As Winter disappears, gets demolished. They're adamant of disengage. Rotten Bengi is going to pay the price, but look at the backside. Shefty doesn't have enough damage. Draconian losing an arm. Sybil looking for the kill. He doesn't see him. Really close to him. The slow more than enough. Shefty can actually get the re-engage and the kill while it's at that. As Errol's just pushing in the mid lane. Can anyone step into the snake? Oh, that's the 4th bullet. Bites in the ultimate from Ericsson. Chrono Shift is gone. And the dragon is going to respond, so this means Soul Ocean for Fløng.
Yeah, Fløng should get this one. I mean, Sybil can make his way out here, but I just don't feel like they're going to be able to get to this dragon in time. Teleport will come in to confirm. And that's Ocean Soul. And I mean, if Shafty's playing this poking style of Kayn, he's now going to have infinite mana and health regen. So good luck there, Verdant. The amount of damage he's putting out onto Draconium with just the Blades Reach alone is a little bit vile. As, oh boy, they're going to maybe look for a Desperation Baron, but the Vision's there, so...
There's Vision, yeah. You're not even thinking about the Vision.
Where's the rest of Fløng, though? Because this could have been a fast Baron. The answer is Shafty showed up quite quick, because he just walks through walls.
Oh. Vanks TP as well, and he's now splitting up with the Raptors, so they could get the flank out of that. So good read from Verdant. Put themselves in a safer position, at least for now. Try to farm, try to get the economy back up, because if you look into the gold, there's a big difference. We're talking about 8,000 gold across the map. If we look into the jungle, that's a 3,000 gold lead. Mid lane as well, 4,000 gold. Only on the bot side, can you smile a little bit with Draconian taking some sort of a lead. 2,000 gold in pockets. So let's see what she's going to buy. This Xayah or Draconian. He bought something. Oh, let's Lord Dominic. So 4 items of critical strike, which means Blade Caller is going to demolish someone.
Yeah, it really can absolutely remove somebody off the rift. There's enough feathers there, specifically Guff Errol. As they're looking for Guffey, actually.
They get him, but the damage is just not there. Cybele is way too fast, and his HP is disappearing. Here comes Shafty. Ericsson is there, but he's late, even though he's the time champion. And meanwhile, Winter is going to get demolished. He gets 2 things, not only the stasis, but the chrono shift. So that's an ultimate that goes to Wait. His Guff gets the last hit. And Fangs, alongside with Shafty, are wrecking havoc on the backline. Draconian alone, trying to do as much as he can, but the colors of the feathers are just being wasted away. And I believe Fløng have everything they need, as the Ocean Soul is keeping them at bay, and the HP is back at full health.
Yeah, there you go. Ocean Soul just regens them up quite quickly. Rombengi in a position to maybe find some kind of flank. Hex Slash in the face. But there's no ultimate on Draconium, on Valkyrie. Chrono Shift is there. Rombengi's gone. This is a bit of a problem. Baron goes down.
They got the beef, but they got the buff as well. Meanwhile, it's a resurrect from Draconian as Valkyrie's getting shipped away. Draconian brings the feathers. It's not enough. Shaft is bringing way too much damage. Sybil just runs in, sees the bodies, and has to leave the battle. Tells Winter, it's a gone. It's a gone. We gotta go back. We gotta wait for them back for the respawns. We're talking about 40 seconds, Yamada.
Yeah, 40 seconds. And I mean, they've got Guffey. Draconium's dead. He's the big carry. Valkyrie's the other damage source. Sybil's a full tank. Winter is a support Rakan. Carries versus tanks and a support. I think they should be able to close this one out. Fløng. And they're going to tie their score at the very least. If they do, with the side of Natives, Winter.
Winter only 1 hit away from going back down. Sybil is going to share the same fate. It's going to be an ace. 5 seconds. 5 seconds. It's what's keeping Fløng away from this victory as Valkyrie respawn. Ericsson as well. Draconian joins the battle. The Nexus is going down. Shafty doesn't care about that. Goof is looking for one more shot. He gets the first one. He gets the point. He gets Fløng ahead into the standings.
Yeah, gets Fløng up into contention for second place. If Natives are to lose their next game, they will sat tied, and guess who Fløng play next? It would be Natives. So it will be a battle for second place if Natives are to lose out on their final game of the day, but it's against AAB. So we expect them to pick it up. But what an exciting game that we got to watch here. We got the Kayn, we had the Cassiopeia, the Riven, loads of weird stuff, even the Zillion with this, you know, kind of speed up the pony build. Definitely very interesting to see. Didn't quite work out for Verdant, and with that loss, you know, chances of playoffs, they fall quite drastically, but still in the race to ensure that they don't quite drop into the relegation zone. Fløng, though, look pretty scary. Got to give them credit for pulling out a very creative draft and making it work yet again.
It was a stellar game, guys. This is only the 4th. We still have one side of this as the last game of the day. But now we have to toss it before we do the interviews. And we want to talk with the players. We want to meet him. We want to understand what happened. So I'll see you soon. Don't go anywhere.